Hello, friends. Today we'll be talking about the Balochistan Plateau. The Balochistan Plateau is a topic from the first unit of your textbook, Environment of Pakistan by Hamuns. The first chapter is about the topographical features of Pakistan, and Balochistan Plateau is one of those features. Under this topic, we'll be covering the basins of northern Balochistan, the basins of western Balochistan, mountain ranges and the coastal areas. So it's going to be a super interesting, topic to discuss and to, study. So stay tuned. Now, in order to understand this topic better, it's better first. So, in very simple terms, a plateau is a flat, elevated landform that rises sharply above the surrounding area. It has to be above its surrounding areas. Like if you see the first picture, you see a tabletop sort of a structure. So, this is actually a plateau. It has a flat top, unlike a hill or a mountain, which has a pointed tip. But this plateau will not have a pointed top, it will have a flat top, and it's raised from its adjacent area or the surrounding area on at least one side. In the first picture, you see it raised on all the sides, but in the second picture, you can observe that it's raised from just one side. So both these are plateaus, but they are of different kinds. Now let's talk about basins of northern Balochistan and the basins of western Balochistan. But to understand this topic better, we got to understand what basins actually are. So let's move on to what basins actually are. What is a basin? A basin simply is any area of land where the precipitation collects and drains off into a common outlet, such as into a river, a bay, or any other water body. Now, if you look at this diagram here, this picture here, you can see this dotted line. If it's not clear, I'm moving my arrow so that it becomes clear to you. Okay, so this is the place which is a little depressed if you compare it with the surrounding area. So, definitely whenever it's going to rain, water is going to get collected in this area. Now, this rainwater, since it's getting collected in this area, that's why it's called as a basin. You know what the how a basin actually is? We have basins at home. They are bowl-like structures, or bathtubs. I took this definition because I really liked it. It becomes easier to relate. A river basin. Let's read it. A river basin is the land that water flows across or under on its way to a river. Just like a bathtub catches all the water that falls within its sides, a river basin sends all of the water falling within it to a central river and out to an estuary or to an ocean. What you have to understand is, it's since it is a depressed area, it's a little, depressed compared to the surrounding area. So the water gets collected there, not forever, but that water flows off into a nearby stream, lake, ocean, estuary, or whatever. Okay, whatever water body is the nearest, that water will fall into it. That would be its final destination. So this is what a drainage basin actually is. Now when we talk about the northern basins of northern Balochistan and western Balochistan, you have to keep this picture in your mind. So what are basins? They are irregular depressions. We just looked at it. So in the north, we have two basins, Zob and Lorelei, and these basins are found between two ranges, Tobakakar and the Suleiman ranges. Now don't get worried here, because when I do the map question with you, I'll be talking about this basins and their position then, so it will be easy for you. But here you have to understand what the basins are, okay, in this slide. So next point, Quetta Valley is also surrounded by mountain ranges, so that also becomes a point of water collection. And then the rain, basically in northern Balochistan, is very insufficient. So whenever it rains, the rivers will drop all the sand and the gravel that they carry with it, because the rivers, the main activity of the river is erosion. So it will carry all the sand and the gravel whenever it's raining, although insufficiently, and it will drop that gravel and the sand at the foothills of the mountains, and it will form alluvial fans on the Piedmont plains. Now, if some of you, are wondering what alluvial fans or Piedmont plains are, so I have made a video on it. You can go and check that. I'll be putting a link in the description box below, and it's important, so please have a look at it. Okay, so this was all about basins of the northern Balochistan. Again, quickly, the points to remember: basins are irregular depressions. In the north, they are found between two ranges, Tobakakar and the Suleiman ranges. Examples are Lorelei and Zob. The Quetta Valley also becomes, since it's surrounded by the mountain ranges, so that's also a little shallow. and becomes a point of water collection. Then the rain is insufficient in the northern Balochistan, and whatever the whenever it rains, the water gets the rivers will draw up the sand and the gravel and form alluvial fans in the Piedmont plains. So these are the features that are formed in the northern Balochistan, found in the basin, northern Balochistan area. Now coming on to the western Balochistan, how are the basins there, or where are they located? They In the western part of Balochistan, a number of basins are found, and those basins are found between the Chaghi Hills, Rasko Ranges, Sahan Ranges, and the Central Makran Range. So learn the names of these ranges and remember that the basins are situated in between these ranges. Now, the western part of Balochistan is devoid of vegetation because it rains very, very little there. Okay, the rainfall is very scanty. But unlike the basins of the northern Balochistan, the basins of western Balochistan, they have no outlet to the sea. Like we discussed in the definition earlier, that the basins, they collect the water and then throw it into the nearby destination, any estuary, bay, lake, ocean, or whatever. But in the western part of Balochistan, they do not have any outlet to the sea. Whereas in the case of northern Balochistan, they do have an outlet because they are closer to the Indus River, so they get drained into the Indus River. But here, they do not have an outlet. So what happens to them is, they will drain into temporary rivers. And in my previous video, I have talked about temporary rivers also, but I'll be attaching a link to that in the description box so that you can check that out as well. What are temporary rivers? They are called as Hamuns or the salt lakes. Why are they called as temporary rivers? Because the water gets collected in them only for a little while. Either it gets soaked into the ground, or it gets evaporated, and that water, or that basin, that temporary river, is actually an inland drainage basin because it's collecting the water and it's inland. It has no outlet to the sea. That's why the word inland. Then this temporary lake is also called as a Harmon or a salt lake. Why a salt lake? Because when the water gets evaporated from that basin or the temporary river, what is left behind is salt, and a crusty layer of salt, which is also called as a salt pan, or that's why it's called as a salt lake. Okay, now let's talk about the mountain ranges. There are a number of barren mountain ranges in the Balochistan Plateau. Why barren? Because it's devoid of vegetation, or there's no vegetation on those mountains. But these ranges do not have a very high altitude. Their altitude is between or height. Altitude means height. It's between 600 to 3000 plus meters, and but these ranges are very much rich in minerals, or they can also be called as mineralized areas of Balochistan, and they are rich in what sort of minerals? Copper, gold, sulfur deposits. The Chaghi Hills especially is a highly mineralized zone. Okay, now you have to learn the names of the ranges that are situated in the Balochistan Plateau. They are the Rasko Ranges, Hala Range, Makran Coast Range, Central Brahui Range, Toba Kakar Range, Siahan Range. Once we deal with the map question, these ranges will automatically get by heart. And if you look at this figure here, or this figure is the figure 1.29, it's not very clear here. But in case you want to go and study it from this figure, you can do so. It's on the page number 12 of your textbooks, and it's figure 1.29. But since it is a little complicated here, I'll be doing it separately on a separate map. Okay, now next topic is the coastal areas. So the coastal areas of Balochistan, they are divided into two main parts, the eastern part and the western part. So the eastern part comprises of the Lasbela plain, and it's marked by gravel and sand dunes. So you have to remember that there are two parts, eastern part and the western part. Eastern part is the Las Bela plain, and the western part is the Makran coast range. Okay, so it projects into the sea and it forms narrow coastal plain. So two parts, Makran coast range on the west and Las Bela plain on the east, and then there are important rivers also lining this range. So this coastal area, and they are the Hab, Purali, Hingol, Dasht, which flow into the Arabian Sea. Now to understand it better, so this is, the province of Balochistan, and this is our coastal line. And this area, this eastern part, is the Lasbela plain, and the western part, this is the Makran coastal range. Okay, so there are two. The Balochistan coast is divided into two parts: the eastern part, or the Lasbela plain, and the western part, or the Makran coast range. Why is it called as Lasbela plain? If you are wondering, so we have a Las Vegas district. situated right over here.
Okay, now let us learn to locate the ranges that are situated in the Balochistan Plateau. What sort of questions do you get? You'll be asked, you'll be given areas marked as A, B, and C, or D, and you'll have to identify which that particular area actually is, which range is situated in that area. Now, if you learn, these ranges randomly, it will become a little complicated and difficult. But if you learn it the way that I'm going to teach you, you'll be able to identify it very efficiently on the map of Pakistan whenever the question is asked. So here we'll be taking this Indus River. This is the Indus River. We'll be taking Indus River as our point of reference. We already know that this is the province of Balochistan, right? Just to the west of the Balochistan, the Indus River, on top. Let's begin from the northern part first. Northern part of Balochistan. Just on the western part of the Indus River here is the Suleiman Range. Okay, when you come down, you come down the Indus River, here will be the Keitha Range. So you have to remember Suleiman Range on the top part and Keitha Range on the bottom part. If you get a range marked here, just adjacent to the Indus River, it has to be Suleiman Range, and if it's in the southern portion of the Indus River, then it has to be the Keitha Range. Now, once you're by heart with the Keitha range, it becomes easy to remember the other two ranges. Keitha range is followed by Pub range, Hala range. So Keitha, Pub, Hala. You have to remember that by just by heart it. Then opposite to the Suleiman range, come back to the Suleiman range again. Opposite to the Suleiman range here on the borderline will be the Tubakaka range. Okay. Between the Tobacca range and the Suleiman range here will be the Central Brahui range. If a range is marked somewhere here, so you should know that this is the central part, and it has to be the Central Brahui range. It is also in between the Tobacca and the Suleiman range. That's why the name, easier to remember. Central Brahui range. Next to the Central Brahui range will be the Rasco range, and bordering this, topmost border will be the Chagi Hills. Below the Chagi Hills is the Hamane Mashkal. I have located that as well. So in case if that gets asked, so you should know that Hamane Mashkal, which is the largest Haman in Pakistan, is situated underneath the Chagi Hills. Okay, so this is all clear. Coming down now, so we'll start from the south. We know that this is the Makran coast. Okay, so this is the Makran coast. Above the Makran coast will be the Makran coastal range, easy to remember. Above it will be the Central Makran range, and above it would be the Siahan range. So Central Makran range is actually sandwiched between the Makran coastal range and the Siahan range. That's why the name Central. So let's rewind it quickly. What all did we study? We studied that we are taking Indus River as our point of reference. Then on the middle part here, and starting off from northern Balochistan, just adjacent to the Indus River, here will be the Suleiman range. South of the Indus River, Keitha range, followed by Pab range and Hala range. Suleiman range on the opposite side, Toba Kakar. Between them will be the Central Brahui range. Next to it, Rasco range. Very close to the borderline here is the Chahi Hills. Come down Makran Coast, and above the Makran coast will be the Makran coastal range, Central Makran, and the Siahan range. Now, when I was doing basins with you, the basins of northern Balochistan and the basins of western Balochistan, so I did not have this map in front of me, and it was becoming a little difficult to explain it to you. But since we have this map here, let's quickly revise that what did we discuss? We discussed that in the basin, in the northern Balochistan, the basins that are situated are Zob and Lorelai, and they are situated between two ranges, that is Toba Kakar and the Suleiman range. So Zob and Lorelai will be somewhere here. So the northern basins of Balochistan are located here. And where are the western basins situated? Come on this side. There we talked about ranges like the Chavi range, hills, Rasco ranges, Siahan, and the central Makran, and we studied that the basins of western Balochistan are situated in between these ranges. So we have these ranges in front of us. So where will the basins be? They'll be somewhere here. So this is the position of the western basins of Balochistan. This is the position of the northern basins of Balochistan. I hope this has become easy.
So with this, we come to an end of today's discussion. It was all about the Balochistan Plateau and all the things that have to be learned under it. That is the basins of northern Balochistan, western Balochistan, mountain ranges, and the coastal areas. I tried to make it as simple as possible for you. Very, very easy to remember, memorize, and store it in your memory forever. And if this video was beneficial to any of you, please subscribe to my channel, press the like button, and do share it with your friends, because when you help someone else, you're helping yourself. So with that, I'll be signing off. And until my next video, keep yourself safe and also your loved ones. Take care. Bye bye.